in that moment, someone else approaches you who's 5'7" and he makes $30,000 a year, but he loves you. And there's like certain things on your list that, you know, you thought your partner should have that he doesn't have. So in that way, he's the wrong person, but he met you at the right time. But ultimately, that if he persists with a relationship with you, he's not the wrong person. He's the right person.
What's up, everybody? This is Ahmed.
And Luffy.
And this is the Brotherly Love Podcast, episode 4.
Yes.
How do you feel? How do you feel, bro?
Good, to be completely honest with you.
Really? Why so?
I'm glad we made it this far.
You think we wouldn't make this far?
No, I knew we'd make it this far, but it's good to be here.
Yeah.
You got to celebrate the small victories, right?
100%.
I think we actually talked about that last episode.
Yeah, smaller victories, because just to have the big moment is, it's nice to have, but it's a lot better when you're able to appreciate like the day by day, even when it's low. I was talking to someone on that on the phone, and they like really appreciated that because I passed my finance exam, and the person, I have like two friends that were helping me during the course of it, and we all took it not yesterday, like 2 days ago, but her screen froze. And she had to retake it yesterday. And so she was frustrated. She was crying. I told her, I was like, yo, you're going to pass. Just appreciate that small moment of like, maybe, I don't know, maybe you were going to get a lower score in that first initial test. You know what I'm saying? Maybe God was like trying to redirect you. Also, the elephant in the room, I forgot my shock mount. So I'm learning my lesson by holding the mic. But it's cool. I like how it is. It's very natural. It's very casual. But I want to talk about a certain topic with you today.
What topic?
So we've been talking about love a lot, you know what I'm saying, the positives, the qualities that we want in a woman or a partner, you know what I'm saying, we don't discriminate. But today I wanted to ask you, what was your first heartbreak like? That was I don't think you remember. I had it in my mind the entire night last night. I was like, what kind of questions am I going to ask them? Because I don't know. I literally do not know.
That's a great question. First heartbreak?
First heartbreak.
Man, we're opening up like I'm going back to like when I was 4 years old.
Yeah. Deep in there.
Oh man. Okay, first heartbreak, probably when I was in kindergarten, and
Nani.
I had a crush on this girl named Mary Jane. Yeah. And
is her name literally okay? We're just using aliases?
No,
that was her actual name.
I mean, I was in kindergarten, so I thought, statute of limitations would expire on that relationship.
Okay, that's fair.
Had a crush on this girl named Mary Jane.
Okay,
and it never worked out kind of between us, and I think that was probably my first introduction to heartbreak from a very young age.
Did you feel like Kanye, 808s and Heartbreak type of feel?
No, to be honest, I don't remember too much about the situation besides the fact that I thought she was really cute. You're talking now first real heartbreak.
Yeah. When you said kindergarten, I just gave you a look like, come on, bro. Like I do understand what you mean by that. Like that is, if we're talking about that, mine was like in 3rd grade. You know what I'm saying? But I'm talking about like you were talking to someone or you were dating somebody and then something happened and that was like your first heartbreak.
I think there's different types of heartbreak. The one you're referring to, I most likely felt for the first time in college, in different ways as well, But first heartbreak, I was talking to a girl for a while, and I think that at the time, so in high school, as we talked about before, I wasn't really big into dating, back in high school.
Yeah, I never saw you with a girl.
Well, okay.
I'm going to just be real. I never saw you with a girl.
Okay. True. But anyways, so when I was in high school, a lot of the teachers, administrators, just older people kind of around me, I always had a lot of like older friends and people around me, they always told me I'd flourish in college. They're like, college is the time for you. Don't kind of worry about what's happening right now. When you go to college, everything will work out. And so I was like, all right, cool. And when I went to college, I was talking to a girl, one of the first girls I started talking to in college, and she broke my heart at the time.
Damn, it's a cold world.
But so what happened, I guess, kind of between us was I I was very like green to relationships. I was very like new to them, and this is goes back to what we were talking about last episode as well. I had a lot of love for this girl, and so the way that I knew how to deal with things is if I have love for you, I show you that love.
Of course.
And I'm also the type of person, just in my normal life, I'm an all or nothing type guy. So if I decide that, hey, I like you, all right, I like you.
Yeah, you go all in.
I'm not talking to any other chicks. I'm not, doing this, that, or the other. I'm trying to work on how can we make our relationship like hashtag relationship goals, you know? So that's kind of the mindset that I approached my relationship with her. And unfortunately, I just met her at a really bad time.
In terms of both your lives or in terms of her life?
No, I mean, in hindsight, I obviously met her at the perfect time in my life because that's what brought me to where I am today. But in hindsight, it was a bad time for our relationship to prosper together. It was a bad time in her life, but I can't necessarily say that because I don't know how she's taken that experience, and maybe it was the right time for me to have met her. Maybe the capacity in which we met each other was the right capacity.
So was it like the right person, wrong time kind of thing?
I always feel like any girl that I date is the right person. And if it doesn't work out, it automatically becomes right person, wrong time. Like, I don't bash any girl I've ever dated.
Yeah.
So I never say wrong girl.
Okay.
Sometimes I make a mistake and, maybe I figure something out, but it wasn't like this girl's inherently bad. There's something that she did that, just caused unknown damage. And no, it's like, it's usually it's the right girl, but it's a good girl.
Yeah, it's a good
because
girl,
there's no right or wrong. Also, I feel like in the terms of it, what do you think? Do you think there's a right or wrong?
In terms of right person, wrong time, I think it could be switched around.
So you think you can find the wrong person at the right time and get into a relationship with them?
In terms of time, that might be the time where like you feel like comfortable to start dating again, right? So maybe in timing, you felt like, oh, this is perfect, yada, yada, yada. And then when you meet them, you automatically kind of like put it two and two together. You're like, oh, this is the person I'm supposed to be with. The universe is giving me someone to be with. But that person could 100% not be suitable for you. So maybe during that time, it was right, but that person specifically isn't the right person for you, But a lot of times, like in life, it's usually going to be the way you kind of said it. It's like the person you date is usually the right person for you at that time. Because I feel that when you get into a relationship, that person is, although they're different in a lot of things, it's kind of like a reflection of who you are, because like they have very similar values. They have very similar perspectives. You can differ about certain things like food or preferences, whatever it is. But a lot of the times in terms of values and ideals, it's usually the same thing, right? Because like, although, opposites attract in terms of what I said, like personality, preferences, taste, but in hindsight, like you actually are kind of looking for the same person in a way.
That's an interesting thing because you can actually find a lot of like similar qualities in women that you date to figure out what it is that you actually value in a partner.
That's bars.
Like even like you could ask yourself, would the women I date, would they end up naturally becoming friends? And if you could,
like your exes?
Yeah. Like that's the woman that you date, right?
Yeah.
So could you imagine them becoming friends?
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
And that's probably because they have something in common, and it's not just their attraction to you. that's in common. It's probably something inherently about them, like their values. You know, kind of going back to the love languages that we were talking about and like that hierarchy of love languages. Like once you find like a compatible arrangement or assortment of love languages, like, hey, you know, at the bottom of, you know, my list is gift giving. So inherently every woman I date has to not be super involved with that. Or at the very minimum on that factor, they can relate.
That could be true. Not all. I mean, I wouldn't say like all your partners that, let's say, you dated would have that on their, like, let's say, like bottom or like second to bottom, because like I said, there could be the instance where it's the right time, but it was just the wrong person. So maybe that person has different, like a different kind of love language.
Can you go deeper into that?
Yeah,
The concept of the
right time and wrong person.
yeah.
So
Because I have a lot of pushback.
Oh yeah, that's fine. The way I imagine it is like, let's say for instance, you started to realize, oh, I need to work on myself, right? So you take time to yourself. You're really trying to hone in self development. You do it for like 6 months, 7 months, whatever, right? Then there comes a time where you realize, you know what? I feel like I have a better sense of myself. I want to start dating, right? So now you start casually dating, going on Tinder, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Going on these dates.
Swipe society.
Yeah, whatever, right? And you can go on, let's say, for instance, you found this partner, right? And this partner is like, the way they present themselves, you're like, yo, this person has the same kind of values I do, right? Yada, yada, yada. And then down the line, maybe a month into the relationship, you realize that's not the same person they were. Because remember, we were saying you put your best foot forward. Mm-hmm. Some people might go even crazier on that, right? So maybe majority of your exes maybe will have very similar love languages or ideals of values, but there might be those outliers that might have different views on things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think generally I can agree. I guess the point I was trying to make and where I was coming with the pushback is that if it was the right time, you wouldn't meet the wrong person. That, like, if you met the wrong person, then it's inherently the wrong time.
So,
and that just is a matter of perception of life.
Okay, so do you think it's like it can only really be right person, wrong time, or wrong time and wrong person? Or is that third one that I said which was right time, wrong person, does that one not exist?
Right time, wrong person does not exist. Is that what?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you, because that's what it seems that like you're
It
saying.
exists. It exists. It's just a matter of perception of like, how do you look at your life, right? Like the way I look at my life, for instance, is like, all right, or at least, you know, I look back at it as like, it wasn't the people that I dated. It wasn't some inherent issue with them. They are who they are, and I am who I am.
Yeah.
Us coming together didn't work. And the timing of us coming together, because in the time when you meet someone, you meet them in that moment. You know, they didn't meet you when you're 12. Yeah. They didn't meet you when you're 40. They meet you today. So in this moment, it's the wrong time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But right people, because there's no wrong people. It's the same thing with like the idea of good or bad people. I don't believe really that there's good or bad people. I think people are just people, and the actions that they take can either be good or bad. In that same way, it's like, I don't think it's like, that's why I have the hesitation on the good, you know, right person, on the right time, wrong person, because for me, it's like the timing is everything.
Yeah.
It's not
there's no coincidence.
Yeah, no, not even that. It's not the person that you meet necessarily. It's the time that you meet them in. And I'll give you an example. Okay. Right? And I feel like I've used this example before. If you
Who are you pointing to?
Huh?
Who are you pointing to?
Come on, man. Our sister is sitting in the audience.
You gotta address it. You just pointed like it was nothing.
Well, because she knows what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Shout out to Wad, our sister. She's in the audience right now.
Yeah, okay. So if you are, say, for instance, a chick, and you're used to dating guys who are 6'2" and 6'2", 190 cut, making six figures a year. You're used to dating a certain type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You could be in a situation where you've had a bad experience with a guy who fits that type, and then you decide that I'm no longer entertaining, or not even subconsciously. Yeah, you kind of decide like I don't want to entertain this type of guy again. So in that moment, someone else approaches you who's 5'7" and he makes $30,000 a year, but he loves you. And there's like certain things on your list that you thought your partner should have that he doesn't have. So in that way, he's the wrong person, but he met you at the right time. But ultimately, that if he persists with the relationship with you, he's not the wrong person. He's the right person. You just needed to find the right time, and that's why for me it's more so about the time that you meet someone rather than on is this person a good or bad fit. Because I can imagine a scenario where people's attitudes and perceptions about dating and who they're willing to date change over time.
So I hope so.
Yeah, so that means that there's no good or bad person, because they could be good for you at one point in your life and bad for you at another point in your life. It's more so a matter of at what point in your life did you actually meet them.
That's a really good explanation of everything. Yeah.
Going back to the original question that you asked, though, I kind of explained, my heartbreak situation.
Yeah.
Right? Did you pick up on it at least, or?
I don't know who it is necessarily, but
the who it is isn't important.
Yeah, but I understand the whole premise of what you mean of why it ended.
Yeah. It was a great girl, right? It was just we met each other at the wrong time. She had just gotten out of her relationship, and so her mental state at the time was not for one of like re-entertaining another relationship. And even more so than that, to be completely honest, when I met her, she was in a place where she was just learning how to love herself again. And I was in a position where I didn't know how to love myself, because I always thought that love was something that happens between people rather than in between a person. So I didn't.
This man's spitting bars, bro.
I'm your brother. You didn't know that?
This man's spitting bars.
Poetry and words. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But that's kind of how I took it, which was I didn't necessarily. It wasn't just and that's why I can look back on it so fondly, because it's not like she did something wrong and she broke my heart. The heartbreaking was a necessary thing, right? And that really just kind of came out of the fact that both of us were broken. She needed to learn how to love herself again, and I needed to learn that you could love yourself.
Yeah, so it was a learning lesson for both.
For both of us, but at the same time, I don't know the you asked me earlier, how does she see it as, right person, wrong time also, and I don't know, because and this could actually be a great discussion for another time. I don't stay in contact with her. So I don't know how she perceives, how our relationship was. And this was years ago. This was over 5 years ago, so I have no idea. But now I'm really interested actually hearing about your...
I'm trying to think back. The one that I think was like my first heartbreak, I think it was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I was dating a girl, and because I was so like into the love and the romance and stuff, I was really
romantic.
Yeah, I'm romantic, so I was really, really into it. And I would always like be like messaging her on like Facebook. We'd go like back and forth. We'd be talking for like hours. We only really saw each other during like community events. You know what I'm saying? But like for me, that was fine. I'm like, it's all good, whatever it is. I can still talk to her. I think we dated for like 7 or 8 months, and then I might be wrong, but just from what my memory is, I think that she cheated.
You don't even remember.
That's how insignificant it is. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm past it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think that she cheated,
Mm-hmm.
and when that happened, my whole world was just like broken. Because to me, I was like, how could someone ever do that to somebody who cares about them? right? So, and mind you, this is my first introduction to love. So like back to what you're saying, like I didn't know who I was when I was in like sixth grade or when I was like 10, 11, or 12, whatever it is, because it's like I was just seeing like, oh, love is when you give your all to somebody. That's how I thought it was, right? So when that happened, I was broken. I didn't know really what to do. In middle school, I was like really like quiet. I didn't really talk much because I was just dealing with a lot mentally. I was like, man, this is really hard for me. I didn't know heartbreak was gonna be that bad. I would say like, although in the time being it hurt a lot. Well, now even talking about it, like you said, like it's like a fond memory. Like I don't really have any like bad blood towards it or whatever it is, because bro, we were young. You know what I'm saying? Like we did not know any better.
You have to give them empathy as well, and think of the fact that, hey, if I was foolish enough in that situation to do X, Y, and Z, maybe they were young and foolish enough also.
Yeah, a lot of people, I feel, will hold grudges towards their exes.
You feel they will hold grudges, or they do? A lot of people do hold grudges.
yeah, people do. Actually, yeah, let me rephrase myself. I'm sorry. They do hold grudges to their exes. If you even like mention their name, whatever, it's like, oh, I don't know that guy, whatever it is, and they try to suppress it. And I understand it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I tried to do. But overall, you have to kind of realize like the only way for you to get over it is when you have acceptance of acceptance of what happened, and two, to like, as cliche as it sounds, like let it go, right? A lot of people, like, let's say for instance, closure, right? A lot of people don't necessarily get closure because the ending of that relationship was probably bad. But you kind of have to make closure for yourself for you to move on. Because if you still have a thorn in your heart over an ex that happened over a year ago, over 2 years ago, whatever it is. I mean, obviously, granted, there might be certain situations it hurts a lot, you know what I'm saying? But if it's just a normal one and you break up and you're still not over it after like a year or two, you kind of have to look at yourself and be like, yo, why do I still have this thorn in my heart? Why do I feel like so aggressive toward this person? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I guess the biggest thing that I learned from it was I had to mature really quick, like romantically. So I was like, I'm not going to let that phase me because it's one person. And not every person is like that.
One of the greatest quotes I ever heard is, the people who find it difficult to forgive are the same people who find it difficult to apologize. So in this scenario, when you think about like closure, I don't think, well, before I tell you what I think, I'm interested to hear what you think.
Damn. All right, what's up?
Okay. Do you believe in closure? And if so, like, how does that look?
I believe in closure, but there's different types. When people think of closure, they think it's the two people in the relationship, they talk things out and they end it off on a good note. To be cordial, it's like, hey, I have all love for you. I apologize for the things I've done in the past, whatever it is. And then, that's your closure, right? But closure could be anything. There's closure moments of people arguing, but maybe that argument had to happen in order for there to be closure, right? So like, there's a lot of people where like they'll be blind to, let's say for instance, their partner is like disrespecting them and just doing a bunch of like terrible things during their relationship, but they don't realize it, right? So then the dude breaks up, or the girl breaks up with the partner, and then over time you start realizing what happened. And then in your closure, you just start spazzing, you go off, right? But you say your truth at the same time. And you leave, and that could be your closure. And then there's closure where you're by yourself and you replay everything that happened. You realize, all right, yeah, I see where I did wrong. And I see where they did wrong as well. And then you just kind of move on from it. I've had a lot of moments of closure with girls before. And it's gone through different varieties. There's ones where it's literally a FaceTime call. There's ones where I apologize and she walks out and she doesn't say anything. And then there's ones where it's literally a sit down conversation and we just talk, so it's always different for every single relationship.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that you should always seek closure, but always know that you have to find it in different ways.
Yeah.
Closure isn't going to always be like, hey, you sit down with someone and you guys come to some mutually beneficial agreement or something, and then it just works. Everyone's woo, hoo, 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 like it's some Disney movie or something like that.
Nah, it doesn't always work that way.
Like, yeah, exactly. So like sometimes, not even sometimes, I would say majority of the times, at least for myself, is I had to find that closure. It wasn't, they weren't offering it. That's basically what I'm saying.
Never.
So it was me kind of taking the onus upon myself to say, hey, there's something either that I did wrong and I need to make amends for, or I found, some things that I need to address, or even finding closure in the fact that I may never get the chance to address things that have happened, and just moving on at that point. And all of them are difficult in different ways. Like there's some girls, for instance, that I did something wrong, in our relationship, and it's something that I need to apologize for. So as difficult as it is, because it's been on my mind now for 6, 7, 8 months, I have to call you and I have to make amends, because I'm not going to let that sit within me for the rest of my life, because I was too chicken to make a phone call. And to face some fears. But at the same time, me 6, 7 months, whatever, waiting to call someone, it's just as difficult as the times when they don't answer that call. And now you have to sit there and be like, okay, and kind of just sit in the fact that you tried to make amends and they weren't receptive to it. And that's okay. That's how life is. Maybe you'll get your chance at another time. Maybe you won't, but you shot your shot.
Yeah, like that's how I always believe. That's why even now, although there's certain moments with certain girls, I'm like, damn, like that was really messed up of you, right? I always remember that, well, one, we were young, right? In a different mindset. And then two, it's like I already spoke my truth. I don't think there is a girl I've dated that I haven't spoke my truth to. So like if they feel some type of resentment or hate, they could reach out to me. But for me, it's like I've already spoke my truth. I don't have to have this grudge against you or against the relationship, or have this thorn in my heart of whatever I did wrong. I want to speak it, because like you said, it's like if it's going to be on my mind for so long, I might as well just speak about it. Even if, let's say, for instance, if I call somebody and they don't answer, that in itself is closure. It's like, all right.
Exactly.
I get it.
That's what I'm saying. You have to find closure within that
like,
too.
I always believe, I'm not going to say like every single person you date will eventually like have a closure moment with you, but majority of them will, whether it be a call or like you guys randomly meet again after like a certain amount of years, right? And you'll be like, whoa, and it'll be like a whole circle of life. You know what I mean? I remember I had that once. I broke up with the girl, and this is when I was on a campus tour. I made my own campus tour my sophomore year. So I was just like, because I just released my project Chakra. So I was doing shows and all that kind of stuff. And I just broke up with a girl. And I was going through the motions because I was like, I have exams, I have a tour, and I have emotional baggage. So I was really going through it. I'm trying to understand it all. And then an ex from high school hit me up. And she was like, hey, like, I hope you're doing good. I was just wondering, like, if you would be comfortable having like a sit-down conversation and just kind of talking about what has happened in the past like 3 years or whatever it is from high school. And I was like, yeah, because I actually wanted closure as well. And it was like a whole circle. You're like a complete circle. You're like, whoa. Now you see this person in a different light. Like, I don't have any hatred towards you anymore. Like you grew up obviously because you had the guts to call me or text me, whatever, to meet up. And then you apologize for what happened. And then we move on. But I feel like to hold a grudge is like, that's so much hatred in your heart. Like, why would you want that?
Yeah. Do you find it often that women, like come back to you after a certain amount of time and apologize if they did something wrong?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
But it does help you, at least for me. I've only had it happen, I believe, once.
Yeah.
Like literally just one time. But the amount of respect that I gained for that girl, oh my God.
It skyrocketed. Like, I was like, yeah, I have respect for you.
Right. And if it was some next level manipulative stuff to like get me to fall back in love with her, she was almost there.
Really?
She almost had me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, no, like I'm not interested in her, and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like when she came to for us to have the conversation. I wasn't interested in her because I was interested in her when we were dating, but we didn't have that conversation until 4 years after we dated. You know?
Damn.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter to me how long it was. It was the fact that she saw me in public and she stopped me and she's like, "Hey, we need to talk." And we sat down and we talked for a good hour, hour and a half or so. Catching up on her life, catching up on my life, but more importantly, she just kind of had the space to explain a lot of things because she just kind of disappeared. Like there was the situation between us was like it was really difficult. And what ended up happening is like we kind of just each of us kind of went our own way.
Yeah.
But it was more so she was like, "Hey, I need some space." I was like, "All right, cool." So like I just went and did my own thing. And then, the world's big enough that you cannot cross paths with someone again. So she went away and did her own thing. I went away and did my own thing. And it was honestly, it was like 4 years later. She saw me. We sat down at the library on campus. And when I got up from that table, I was just like, wow, this is a woman. I didn't, and I was proud of. It's crazy because it's like the pride. I was proud of her, and I was proud of myself for choosing to date her back in the day. Because I was like, look at the woman that she's become.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I've dated thousands of girls, but all the girls I've dated, like you can't say that none of them did anything wrong in the relationship, but she was the only one who wasn't a girl that I dated. She was a woman.
There's a big difference.
Like she was sure enough in herself to acknowledge her wrongdoings, and not even to herself, but to me, to put them into words. Because a lot of times, we talked about this before too, people don't know how to express their feelings. They don't know how to put them into words. And I feel like a lot of women, like they'll end up in a situation where even if they feel like they did something wrong, they either may not have the ability to properly put their feelings into words, or B, and which is the hotter take, like most women aren't held accountable for their actions. So in that situation, I just had to glance over to my sister.
I had a big feeling that was gonna happen. As soon as you said girls don't take responsibility or accountability, I was like, I see why looking at us, and I was like, oh geez, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, but a lot of women, they don't learn how to take responsibility for their actions in the same way that men do growing up. It's just natural growing up. If say for instance, if I do something wrong to you, it doesn't matter who it is. If I do something wrong to you, the plural, I'm going to get socked in the face. That level of consequence doesn't exist for half of the people that women deal with, because men in general, like, don't hit women. So there's certain ways that it pops up that, like, through society and like social conditioning, that a lot of women haven't been challenged to be accountable for their actions. So it's remarkable if anyone does, right, comes out of themselves to be accountable for their actions, because it's difficult, right? Even for, I'm not saying, oh, women aren't accountable, but even for quote unquote, like, guys who, we were conditioned to be accountable, it's difficult for us. I think I just told you 6-7 months. Sometimes I'd wait 7 months after a relationship before I would be able to apologize for something that I did. So I held on to it for that entire time. Human nature is human nature, though. She was holding on to that for 4 years. There was 4 years of when she knew she did something wrong.
But she, like you said, like emotionally, like she might have not been able to formulate the words, and it might not have been the right timing. That's very crazy that you say that, because when you talk about growing up, especially, girls weren't really held accountable for like mistakes that they would make. I think for guys, we'd always have to be saying sorry. So I think it's like this. So like girls would be able to express their feelings, but they weren't really held accountable for their actions. Guys were held accountable for their actions, yet they weren't able to express their feelings. Right. So like, I also think in human nature, like it takes a big amount of a deflation of ego to come to someone that you used to be like, what I'm saying, really, really cool with, and apologize just in general, to be accountable, like, listen, I messed up in these areas and I apologize for that, right? There's like one person I think of from like college where I'm like, we both know that you did something wrong, but I also know in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's gonna take you some years
Mm.
for you to grow up and to understand, oh yeah, that still affects me and I need to address it. You need to be kind of accountable for your actions. And whenever a woman does even say I'm sorry, right? Because I don't get that often. You know what I'm saying? From like my past relationships, I didn't really hear I'm sorry for insert whatever it is the mistake is, and I apologize, and I'll try my best not to do it again. But for a woman to come forth and be like, hey, listen, I'm sorry for what I did, like that was really messed up, it gives me a sense of like, you really, really became a woman. I think as a man, especially as a man, you have to apologize. And as a woman, you have to apologize. That's what separates boys and girls. It's kind of like, yeah, accountability and like initiative is what separates boys and men and girls and women.
Mm.
That's how I see it.
Mm. What is the what has been the reception, I guess, when you've tried to reach out to people to apologize, or to like make amends or get back in contact with
It's
them?
usually 50-50. It's either, hey, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate that. And we can reconcile. Or it's like, fuck you. And and they just, I understand both though. I understand like both sides. Like it makes sense.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not the best guy. I've done a lot of wrongs in my past. So like, I get it. But in that self, right? If the person's like, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you anymore, it's like, I get it. Cool. I just wanted to reach out and to apologize for what I've done to you. And I can wish you nothing but the best. And that's genuine from my heart. It's not as like a cliche. Like, genuinely, I really hope you have a great life. I know that we're not going to talk anymore, but I can just give you positive energy.
No, I fully agree. It's like 50-50 between they're really happy that I called and
Really?
yeah, I think 50% of the time they're like maybe not outwardly happy, but 50% of the time they're definitely relieved that I'm calling because I'm bringing it up.
Ah, okay. I thought they were like relieved because they're like, he's back or whatever it is. But I can
No, we
understand.
don't really go back to women that we dated.
Yeah, no, don't do that. No, but I understand what you're talking about. It's like someone brought out the elephant in the room.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
someone addressed the elephant in the room and they get a sense of relief off that because just dynamic between men and women is like we said, men are supposed to take the lead. Men are supposed to, take initiative. So they believe that in this scenario, even if they're wrong, right? Like if they find any shred of your wrongdoing, they can lie on that or rely on that as the reasoning for why they're not getting in contact with you and why you need to get in contact with
I
them.
hate that shit. I'm sorry. I just had to say that.
The other 50% of the time has been like I call them and or I get in contact with them or whatever and they just blow up on me. like
But a beep.
yeah, and it's like like cool, like I get it. Like you said, I'm not perfect. I do and did a lot of things that I wouldn't stand behind. Like it was wrong of me, and that's why I'm apologizing. I get it. It's difficult. I wish their reception would be different, but at the same time, like I'm not putting an expectation necessarily on my apology, and it might be selfish in that way. Like we said, you have to find closure in whatever form you can. So most of the time when I do that, I approach it with the mentality that I'm almost like I'm doing this for me, like to clear,
Oh no, yeah.
to clear my
To clear your
conscience.
conscience.
Yeah, and like yes, I am like genuinely sorry, and I want to convey that to you because hopefully that can ease some sort of like pain within you. It's something that you're holding on to, like maybe like really seeing that like yo, there's some sort of changed behavior in this person, or he sounds genuine in his apology, like he really thought about this. Like maybe that could relieve some of their tension and what they have kind of built up.
Okay. Just because you were saying change in person and like things like that, there's a question I want to ask you: is would you ever take back any of the girls that you, I mean, we just said that like you shouldn't date the girls that you used to date, but would you ever take back any girl that you've dated before?
What do you mean take back?
No, take back. My bad, my bad. It's not like they're like, go out with me, whatever. But like, would you start dating them again?
I mean, it depends on the circumstance. Like that, and I feel like that's part of the reason, like that's part of the that's a natural logical extension of genuinely believing in like people changing. Now, granted, I don't want, here's the thing, is like it's even bigger. I just don't want to date necessarily a lot of the girls that I've dated before. I don't want to date them again. And it's not because like I feel slighted or whatever. It's because I believe like there's probably better matches for me than a lot of the women I've dated before. Like I didn't always choose girls off of the values that we were talking about last episode. Sometimes
Nope.
the value was like she got a fat ass. Like,
At least you're keeping it real, bro.
You
No,
know?
honestly, like sometimes I'll like date a girl or talk to a girl because the initial thing, I'm like, damn, them titties looking good. I'm gonna talk to you. That's just me being honest, you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, I guess it is like kind of like the circumstances. But I've always noticed it's like the more that you focus on yourself, the quote unquote badder the girls get. When I say badder, I'm not saying like physical appearance, right? I'm just saying badder as in like they're becoming more and more of your match. So I feel like everyone starts off in the bottom because they're just trying to discover what they like, right? So initially they're like, oh, like they'll talk about the physical qualities they like, oh, I want a guy or I want a girl that's like this or like that. He has to be nice, she has to be really cute, whatever it is, right? And then over time, as you start evolving as a person, you start realizing the physical part is obsolete. It doesn't matter anymore, right? It's nice, it's a perk, but it's not exactly what it
the
is.
physical aspect is binary to me.
Yeah,
It's not a 1 to 10. It's a yes or no.
yeah,
You know, so once you got the yes, like it's kind of irrelevant off of like, oh, you know, how pretty are you?
no, yeah.
I find you attractive. Like, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah,
You know,
I
like it
find you
doesn't need to
attractive.
be a 7, but this chick was a 9, you know, and this chick was, you know, she's like a 6.5. And this chick, it's like, look, like, hey, I'm physically attracted to you. Yes. All right. Now let's move past that question and address my 90 other questions that I have.
Yeah,
Like-
and that's why I was saying, like, when you keep evolving as a person, the quote unquote partners become badder, you know, because it's like you're getting to that point where your match is like exactly what you want and exactly what you need during that time. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe like in high school or something like that, it's kind of like, whatever. I have hormones. You have hormones. What's up? You know what I'm saying?
I'm a man. You're a woman.
Yeah. What's up? You know what I'm saying? It's like that. But when you get into college, you start venturing into like the actual person themselves. And then from there, it's like your attraction level to other potential partners goes crazy up because like I said, when you just start improving on yourself, I think it's like to me, it's like a simple science. Like when you start improving on yourself, the attraction levels start to rise a lot more.
Well, sure. Think about what we talked about in the last episode. Like, if you don't do anything, like say you were like me when I was growing up and you worked and you went to school and before you developed like any general hobbies that you can potentially meet people in. So the only avenues you had to meet people were like work and school. Well, that's your like potential dating pool, right? And if you hold like the law of, oh, I'm not going to talk to people in this environment, you know, then like your only really avenue is to like almost like cold approach women. Like, oh, I see a woman that I fancy, now I have to go talk to her in public, right? And like the reason that doesn't work out, like it works for guys in terms of, or people in general, when you approach someone who you don't know, yeah, it works. Like, to be honest, I feel like way higher than people think, like 90-80% of the time, like it can work, you know, like because when you approach someone like cold, they're enchanted. That's the word. Yeah.
When you say cold, what do you mean by that?
Cold approach.
Yeah, what's the cold approach?
It's not the cold approach. Cold approaching is you're walking down the street and you see a someone that you like, and you just approach them. You have no basis for the introduction. It was, you guys weren't in the same class together. It's not like she just came out of your wine painting seminar or
So it was
something.
like at a random.
Yeah, that's why it's cold, because you're just like, it's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
cold approach. There's nothing. There was no warm up, no introduction. You're just shooting. When you cold approach someone, the only basis you have of cold approaching them is your physical attraction. Like, that's the only thing, is like, oh, I'm physically attracted to this person, so I'm gonna cold approach them. The error is, a lot of guys, like especially guys, I actually don't know how. A lot of guys, they think that that's the main way to get women, and
It's the cold approach.
yeah, like, they think it's like, that's how players play. Like, oh, where else do they meet a bunch of girls? It's like, they must just,
Anywhere.
well, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
where else do they meet a bunch of girls? Like, in their day-to-day life, they can like approach them and shoot their shot in during the daytime, or like, just when they're out and about. But like, that's not how you find like good matches. That's how you find a good first date. But that first date, like, the likelihood, and I found myself in this predicament after my, I want to say, like, freshman year of college. I started to go ham. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go on as many dates as possible.
I remember you telling me this, like you would say like in a week, it was like 4 or more dates in that week.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have them 2 lined up back to back, 3 on Friday. Like, we just trying to go on as many dates as possible. Like, that was literally like me and some of my friends. I'm not going to implicate all of them. They weren't all like complicit in this, but
Yeah.
we'd go on like as many dates as possible. And like, we'd say like, oh, how many do you have this week? Oh, it's like, oh, word, I got 6 dates this week. Like, and like, that's how we kind of were. And what I realized very quickly is that I was really good at going on a first date. That's all it developed for me, is I got really good at going on a first date, and it never like kind of progressed past there. Very, very few second dates that I'd go on, you know? And reason being is because the only thing that, like I said, like, I liked about them, and that potentially that they liked about me, was like the physical level of attraction. But when you focus on building yourself up as an individual, and you have hobbies and you perform in those hobbies, I don't. For me now, like, I don't. Like, it's so rare that like a woman will catch my eye, like, in public and in passing, because like we said, the physical attraction is such a. Now it's just like, wow, you're actually really beautiful, and then you're like, okay, wait, I got to go pay these bills, and I got to go, got to go to the gym and do this and that, and
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I don't really have time to even really think about it. So like, there's no cold approach in my game anymore. Like, it doesn't exist. And what I'm finding is that, like, when you have something already mutually of interest to both parties, like, for instance, this is a chick who's in my yoga class, or this is a woman who we're in the same, I don't know, dance class, or whatever it could be. The level of interaction between us, the extent, the way you're phrasing it is, the badder that they are, the better of a fit that I'm finding.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, is the better of a fit that I'm finding is when and it's in this way that you need to like pre-screen your partners. It's like, cool, they're physically attractive, but beyond that, like, how else have you pre-screened them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of business angle, but same way I look at tenants. It's like, I have this property. Yeah, you make enough money to pay the rent, but like, are you going to be a good tenant?
Yeah, that's important. Okay, I can see that. I guess for me personally, because you talking about the dates, you're bolder than I am. Because, well, one, I would get very tired of the dates. I'm like, all right, bro, I don't care about this girl. I don't want to go on a date.
Listen, I don't do this anymore.
Yeah, no, I know it's your past, but like, just
I got tired of it too.
Even in my sophomore year, like, I was just working. You know what I'm saying? I had 2 jobs and I was just working hard. I guess the way for me, how it kind of happens where I just like talk to girls, it's kind of out of random. It's like, I don't even necessarily even try an approach. It's like, let's say for instance, I don't know, I was on campus and I was lost, whatever, right? I'll talk to the girl, ask the questions, and if we have a conversation, cool. But then I'll just move on, and I kind of don't follow up, if that makes sense. I'm just like, I'm just here to talk, and then I'm out. And I guess that's attractive to certain women. I don't really know, um, but
It is. It's attractive that you're not attracted to them.
yeah,
People are weird in that way.
no, it's kind of what you have to do as a guy. Like you have to kind of like show them that like what's up, but also at the same time like nah, just don't talk, just don't talk. But yeah, I guess like you said, like over time you kind of have to have a screening of the girls that you meet, because I guess let's say for instance, if you're saying in terms of your dates, right, 4 dates a week, that's 16 dates in a month, right? From those 16, there's probably only like two potential that you're like, oh, these are nice. Because other 16, it's like, or other 14, it's like, you look really nice, but what do you have to offer?
Exactly. Besides that ass, which is why it went nowhere. Like, 98% of the time. Like I said, I couldn't get on a second date with
Yeah.
98% of these girls. So I realized real quick is like, this shouldn't be my game. Like,
You ever been stood up before?
of course.
Same.
Of course. Like for a date, right?
Yeah, shit ain't cool.
Yeah, of course, bro. I've had multiple chicks day of they just go silent like the day of the date.
Either they're
And I'm-
silent or they're like, you're gonna hate me, but, and then they explain why.
If I'm like getting ready for the date and some chick texts me like, "Oh, you're gonna hate me," but I'm never texting you again.
Oh no, yeah, that's exactly my rule. That is exactly.
If this is
my
a
rule.
first date, like okay, like we're like 2 dates in, 3 dates in, or something. Like yeah, okay, of course, like we're both invested at this point to a degree. So like I know like something probably just came up, but like this is a first date and you're canceling. Oh, you're not with it.
You're not.
You're
with
not
it.
really with it. You're not really as interested as you think you are.
Yeah, like you had second doubts, and I get that, but I'd much rather you let me know that you just don't want to go on the date instead of doing that. Like I remember I was supposed to go on a date. I remember it. It was like a Tuesday, and we're supposed to go on a date at like 4 or something like that, just to get some food. I'm like, all right, cool. So we like our buildings are literally right next to each other. I'm like, all right, bet. I'll like, so it was like 3:55. And then it was like 4 o'clock. So I text her. I'm like, hey, I'm on my way to the place, right? No response. 5, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm already there. And so I was like, I gave her a call. No response. Silent. And so I sat there. I was like, wow, that's how we're doing it? And I was like, all right, I'm going to get my food. Because I came here for food regardless. I'm going to get my food. I'm going to go back to my dorm. Focus on what I needed to do for today. Keep it pushing, right? 3 hours later, she texts me, oh my God, I fell asleep. I'm so sorry.
Well, I guess your sleep was more important than our date. I see where I fall.
Shawty wasn't I don't think you were asleep.
It doesn't matter if she is. It's just like, listen, even if you were asleep, right? You should wake up and call me. Like if you're like serious, like imagine if I had, and this is how I think about it, right? Like if you're looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they're supposed to be your friend. So think about how you treat your friends. Like there will be never come a time where it's like, I had something planned with my friends. If I fell asleep, and I'm not saying that has never happened before, because you guys know I like to sleep.
I love sleeping.
Yeah, like my friends know, like they'd be like, "Yo, that's why they call me Gramps." Like, because 8 p.m. I'm out like a light, So it's like I completely understand. At the same time, though, if I ever did fall asleep, it didn't matter if I woke up and it was 1 o'clock in the morning.
You gotta call them.
I'm gonna text them at 1 o'clock in the morning, and be like, "Yo, I literally just woke up. Like, I'm so sorry." The next morning, like I call them or whatever, and we're like, "Hey, I'm sorry, blah 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 happened, whatever." But the friend part is missing a lot of times. And like I said, it's usually because you said they get some sort of doubt where they're like, oh, I kind of want to do this instead and then or do that instead. And so like they're literally weighing you as opposed to like the rest of their day. And I see where I fall. So it's like, all right, like you've shown me everything I need to see. Like you obviously don't value a potential relationship with me. So why should I?
Yeah. No.
Like continue to invest in it.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. Like after that moment, it wasn't like bad blood, but I just knew in my head, I was like, all right, I'm just not going to talk to you. I'm going to just keep it pushing. And that's kind of what you have to do, because it's like to persist when you know that they're not interested is like the worst thing to do. Like there's no chemistry there. There's no interest on probably both sides if you're still if you're still persisting, it's not necessarily desperation, but in a way you're kind of trying to recover what
Oh,
happened.
sure, but let's be honest too. The reason a lot of guys persist is because women never explicitly say we're not interested. And I understand to a degree why, right? There's a lot of guys who can react negatively to that sort of information, but it's still about like you don't it's in the same way that I'm not apologizing when I did something wrong because of how I perceive you're going to react. I apologize because it's the right thing to do. In the same way, you shouldn't take too much about, oh, this guy's going to get really upset and blow up and, oh, what do you mean you don't like me? You a bitch, but I ain't like you anyway.
It happens though.
I mean, I know what I'm saying is it's irrelevant.
Oh yeah.
Like that's my point, right? When I call someone because I did something wrong, it's irrelevant how if they cuss in my face and, oh, fuck you, I can't believe that you have the balls to call me and try to apologize. Nah, like it doesn't matter if they take that route because the right thing to do is what I'm gonna do, which is to call you. Just like it doesn't matter what the guy's gonna do unless you literally your fear is something like physically happening, right? And of which is like, okay, maybe I'll give you a slight out because there's still ways that you can mitigate that risk, which is declining him in public, like around a bunch of people, and like invite your older brother to come too,
Bro,
and his homies. Like,
if that happens, if you get like, I've seen like, you know, those promposals, whatever.
promposals,
So like in high school,
like
there's
a proposal to go to like, hey, do you want to
prom.
go to prom with me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So like those. So they've gotten like bigger and bigger each year. And I've seen ones where it's like a big out, like they go all out, and the girl's like, nah. And everyone's like, oh, and he's just like head down. I was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? But
Which
no,
she should. Which she
no, yeah,
should.
what she should. I 100% respect it because like,
Because why
that's-
didn't he ask her before all this? Like,
Yeah, that's also kind of weird. But
it's the same thing with the engagement ring, right?
but I
Like, you
also
don't
get
bring
at the
up.
same time
You get what at the same time?
of like why they didn't. She didn't. Why didn't like the guy? Why the guy proposed promposal or whatever without telling the girl because he wanted it to be surprise. But
He did all that.
yeah, he did all that. But at the same time, I don't think that was the right move to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't get it at all because to me it's the same thing as like if you're ever in a situation, for instance, where you engage like to someone, like I'm proposing to get married to you, I'm gonna engage. What is it called? Getting engaged?
I would hope so. And for promposals or just
No, man, move past prom. Let's grow up a little bit. Engagements.
yes,
Like-
you're getting engaged.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're doing the engagement, is that what it's called? Or you're doing the proposal to get engaged?
You're doing the proposal.
proposal to get engaged.
Yeah.
If you ever hear a no, your relationship's over.
Facts.
So you wouldn't invest into it unless you knew for a fact that she was going to say yes. You would have the conversations beforehand. The engagement isn't supposed to be a surprise. The manner in which you do it is supposed to be a surprise.
Yeah.
In the same way, asking a girl to prom shouldn't necessarily be a surprise. Like, wait, you? Like, it should never kind of be like that. It should be like, oh, I'm so happy that he did it finally, or I'm so happy that whatever. And like, maybe like I get it. You want to create some sort of like, hey, do you want to go to prom with me? But like, you can do that on the slow one. But then like, you need to have. You should just affirm with someone. I think you should make sure you guys are on the same page before you take something like a big step like that. And I get that prom's not the biggest step in the world, but in those people's lives, it's a pretty big step. So that's the end of the relationship.
Yeah. I can understand that because it's like you invested so much into that whole plan, and because you want your foot forward into marriage and they don't, it's kind of like, all right, well, you know, we're just gonna kind of move on from it. So I guess as like final words in a way, like
Speaking of moving on.
speaking of moving on, heartbreak allows us to kind of grow up and see the kind of person that we want in our lives. I think a lot of people are coddled in terms of not wanting to be hurt, but I think it's important to be hurt because our body is like, I think the word is anti-fragile or something like that. Like we need to be hurt in order to grow and progress as people. So yeah, do you have any last words?
Yeah, I completely agree. Heartbreak is necessary for growth. When we look for the future or towards the future, we have to amend the past or make amends for our past. And moving forward, can only be accomplished by looking forward. So you need to make sure that what's behind you is truly behind you, that you've made the amends that you can make, and that you don't get too caught up into it. And I think it will lead us actually amazingly into our discussion next time when we talk about hopeless romantics, and romance. Why do people become hopeless romantics?
That's a
And
good topic.
yeah. And
Okay.
I feel like part of it stems from this conversation now, and what you're saying about heartbreak. So I feel like it'd be a natural extension of this conversation.
I like
So
that a
stick
lot.
tuned for episode 5, guys.
This has been Ahmed,
And Luffy.
and this is the Brotherly Love Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Bye.